All right, we are live. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jamie J, and I am the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. But again, this is not what we're here for today. We are here to talk to Bill Eckstrom, and Bill Eckstrom is going to be talking to us about some of those hidden. Let me pop it up here really fast. Some of those hidden performance metrics that leaders don't know exist. So we're going to be talking with Bill Eckstrom here. We'll be starting here in about 38 seconds. Hello, it's Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, and I'm excited to be joined by Bill Eckstrom today. Really appreciate you tuning in for this live event, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So let me start off first by introducing Bill Eckstrom. We're going to be talking about the hidden performance metrics that leaders do not know that really exists. And for those of you that don't know Bill Eckstrom, Bill is the founder and CEO of EcSell Institute, the world's first, I love this, the world's first and only organization to measure and quantify leadership effectiveness. He is considered one of the world's top authorities in metric-based performance coaching and growth. His book, The Coaching Effect, co-authored by EcSell Institute President Sarah Wirth, helps leaders at all levels understand the necessity of challenging people out of their comfort zone to create high-growth organizations. Again, without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Bill Eckstrom. How are you, Bill?
Good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. This is fantastic.
Fun to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. We're just going to kind of hang out and we're going to chat and talk about some cool business stuff and some of these hidden performance metrics that we don't know exist. But before we jump into that, I'm wondering if you can introduce yourself and maybe give us a little background on who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, I have a wonderful opportunity to start the EcSell Institute. And what we're all about is making sure that people know what it feels like to have a world-class coach. And we really take the approach that if more managers, leaders in the workforce behave more like a high-performance athletic coach, that their performance, as we've seen through our metrics and our understanding of this, would certainly improve. It would be a much healthier workplace. It'd be a much higher performing workplace. Turnover would go down. Productivity would go up. A lot of things would happen. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. I think my claim to fame, if you want to even call it that, occurred, number one, because I did a TED Talk that went viral. And then I was fortunate enough to co-author the book that you mentioned. And thank you very much for that, The Coaching Effect. So there you go. And if my dog happens, if you see a head here, that's because our yellow Labrador might be sticking its head up here every now and then to say hello.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. So how are you holding up through this whole pandemic?
You know, Jamie, thank you for asking. It has not been that challenging. It has been another amazing growth experience for me, for our company. Now, obviously, it's created a lot of trauma for a lot of lives. We're fortunate enough not to have had to go through that. But in terms of how we're holding up is really, really well. We're learning a lot about ourselves. We're learning a lot about our clients. We're learning how to communicate differently and in some cases more effectively. There's so many good items that are coming out of this as well. So how about you? Are you holding up okay?
We did get hit a little bit, but instead of cowering and complaining and doing all of that, myself and my unbelievable team, I should say not my team, it's us together all the way. We all put our heads down and we just kind of drove forward. We came up with some new systems, some new processes. We're coming out with a new website. We're just totally taking advantage of what we did have the downturn, kind of some downtime, and we're finding ourselves now so much better off for it. And we cannot actually wait to see kind of where this is going to end up, because we're going to be definitely part of the new normal. And by the way, my assistant, Raina, wanted to say, hi, Bill.
Hey, Raina, how are you? Thank you for that.
Thank you, Raina, for organizing this.
Come up and say hi.
There we go.
Come on. Here. Come on up, say hi.
Oh, look at that.
Come here. Up. This is Aspen. So.
Oh, look at that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So anyway.
I would bring my dog in here too, but he'd probably break everything with his tail.
No, she does a lot of therapy dog work, so she's infinitely well behaved and trained.
That's fantastic. Well, that's great. Well, again, thank you for taking the time to be here. And I wonder maybe if we can dive into a little bit more of what it means when you say some of the hidden performance metrics that leaders don't know exist.
Well, that's a good question, by the way. It's never really been opened this way to me before, so thank you for doing that. But I have to backtrack just a little. And it begins with not just, they don't care if they exist if these activities don't lead to something. And so all of our work is really based on research. And one of the things that we've done, and I'll use sales as an example, is we've been tracking activities of sales leaders for many, many years. We've been researching, surveying sales leaders, surveying middle management, surveying frontline management, surveying tens of thousands of salespeople to really understand the impact their leaders, or what we call coaches, are having on them. And one of the things we've been able to do is identify 4 key activities that coaches or leaders do often and do well that drive the most discretionary effort from their teams. And those are consistent one-on-one meetings, team meetings, career development plans, and providing objective feedback. Those are what we call the 4 high growth activities. And while none of that is, quite frankly, Jamie, rocket science, one of what we know is if you ask people that, if you share that with them, and it's all laid out in our book, The Coaching Effect, people will say, okay, well, that's not anything overly new. I mean, our people are supposed to be doing one-on-ones. They're supposed to be doing providing objective feedback, so on and so forth. But here's where it gets interesting. So my response is, okay, how often are they doing it? Well, they're supposed to be, but how often are they actually occurring? Well, here's an interesting statistic. If you ask sales leaders how often they hold their one-on-one meetings with what frequency with their salespeople, they will tell you they hold them between 85 and 90% of the time. If you ask salespeople how often they hold their one-on-one meetings with their boss, they will tell you 50 to 55% of the time. Our data shows it's actually 62% of the time. Now, Jamie, if you were a sales leader and you knew the impact these meetings were having on the discretionary effort, on the performance of your people, and 4 out of 10 times those meetings were missed or not held by the leaders, would that cause you some consternation?
Not only would it cause me consternation, but it would almost, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of emotions that would tie into that. Am I important? We're not following through with what we originally planned. Wait a second, things changed and I didn't know. What the heck? Hey, did you miss there's all kinds of things that can pop up with this.
Yeah. And my response sometimes is to leaders is, okay, if you knew your salespeople were missing 4 out of 10 of their sales meetings, how would you feel about it? And the response is always visceral and immediate. Oh, they wouldn't be with us any longer. But you're leading, you're not, how are you setting that example then?
Exactly.
But
it's a two-way street.
So many messages it sends on down, just irresponsibility. What I'm doing matters more than you as a person, on and on and on.
Yeah, you know what? I love diving into meetings in particular. That's actually the third step of our onboarding process for our clients, is diving deep into what a good meeting is. And even more than that, we create a meeting agenda. We have a template for it. And there's a specific way that we lay out our agendas for our meetings. And I have to tell you, when we kind of go away from our agendas, the meeting goes away from us. And all of a sudden, instead of it being an hour-long meeting for 13 or 12 or 13 people, it's now an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. And that's no good. But if we stick to an agenda, we can stick to accountability.
Yeah, there's times, it's, as you know, it's okay to stray. And even within the agenda, sometimes things can get jostled around as long as things on the agenda get covered. But you're right, without that agenda, there is a much greater tendency to stray. But so kind of in that spirit.
Sorry, I went down that rabbit hole there. But
go ahead. No, what I was going to say is another example of one of those high growth activities is providing objective written feedback. And here's what we know is most leaders don't provide written feedback out of a way aside from their annual reviews, which, by the way, is a whole nother topic. I do not like annual reviews. I despise 360s. I don't like annual reviews. But
how come?
What's that?
How come you despise them? Just out of curiosity.
I despise 360s, and I'm not fond of annual reviews. Now, I'm not opposed to having annual, which we do. We have sit down and do very deliberate annual conversations with our people where we discuss everything from compensation. We have annual compensation conversations and things like that. But in terms of performance, by having those annual reviews, basically what it denotes is I want you to have a conversation with this person about their performance once a year. It should happen no less frequently than monthly, to have, and in terms of formally, it should happen no less frequently than quarterly. And when I say formally, I'm talking about written, documented. And as a matter of fact, when we study high-performing coaches and leaders, they objectively document, at least quarterly, the performance of the people on their teams. Now, not in a negative way, but what they're doing is they're weaving feedback into the fabric of the culture within the organization. Because right now, too often feedback comes when I've done something wrong. Hey, you know what? Bill screwed up. You should probably go, what do you hear a lot? Coach him up, right?
Yep.
So right away, the term coach has a negative connotation because it only comes out when somebody's done something wrong. But if after every time we listen, now I'll use sales as an example again. If I'm a sales leader, when I hear a salesperson participate in a call, it's an opportunity for feedback. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. It's feedback. What you're doing then is you're really, as I've said earlier, weaving into the organization the fact that feedback just always occurs as part of who we are.
Right.
And
it's conversation.
Well, it's everything. It's relationship. I know when we were young and getting started, after every sales call, our sales guy would walk straight into that I'd participate in. The second he'd get off, he'd walk straight in my office. He would sit down and look at me like, all right, let's go. I want to know. How did we do here? Have you ever seen a professional quarterback not review game film?
No.
You ever seen a golfer not videotape their swing or have an understanding of how they're doing? My goodness, in high school on, they're filming and they're helping people grow, be getting sales. It's like, well, I'll tell you once a year. I apologize. I've been rambling on, but you can tell I'm pretty passionate about this.
That's quite all right. That's what this is all about. Ramble away. I want to learn from this. But there's, I know you don't know me too well, but I'm a big fan of systems and processes, open lines of communication, workflows, and one of the things that we always like to share is if something pops up and pops up more than 3 times, we need to be able to communicate effectively how we're able to respond to that. Notice I say respond, not react, right? Big difference between those 2 words. But we have to be able to respond to it in a via a community. So whomever takes over that particular process, they have to understand exactly step by step how to do it. This takes out a lot of the stuff like, what is Jamie thinking in his brain there? So what we do is, if there's something that I do more than 3 times, I'll do a video recording of that. And then I'll send it off. And this is a little bit off topic that it's going to make sense here in just a second as to what you were saying. So I do a video and I say, hey, this is how I want to do this, step 1, and then click here. And in our company, every time we click the mouse button, that's a step. So what happens is I take that, send it off to whoever's responsible for that particular task. And then they watch the video and they write out the step-by-step workflow. So they'll write out step number 1, take a screenshot. Say, if I go up to the top and you log in, you click there, screenshot. The next thing, you enter in your screenshot. And that's step by step. And this does 2 things. Number 1, it lets me know that they understand clearly what I've been talking about. And number 2, it also helps to identify potential friction points or challenges that are going to come down the road so that we can work that out in the beginning. This is communication. But all of this starts from a meeting that we had with one another where we were able to communicate back and forth and brainstorm. And we do 2 meetings here. 3. We have a development meeting, which is different, but we have 2 main meetings. On Mondays, we have it's marketing, it's brainstorming. There is an agenda, but not really. This is a time for us to just this is a cool idea that I saw. What do you think? And we start talking about it, and a lot of good positive ideas come from that. Wednesday is much more structured. We follow an agenda pretty much to the T, but it's very effective meetings, in my opinion, because everybody talks about their wins and their challenges. We just started something recently that's relatively new, where each one of the people on our team lead that meeting, which is interesting. And then we go through, we do accounting, accountability, and then objective, what's going to happen next week. And then each of us do a little 5-minute training. Whoever's leading that meeting does a 5-minute training on one of the workflows and processes that they do so that everybody else understands. Because we want to make sure that if and when we grow, if we need another person to come in and share responsibility in that role, they already have an idea of what that process is. So it's really important for us to get down to that nitty-gritty on the Wednesday. But Mondays is fun. Like, I'll say they're all fun. I don't want to deny fun for anybody else, but it's a big difference. And I'm a little late on this, but Ryan Shute said yes to one of your comments before, but I'm assuming it had to do with your meetings.
Well, thank you, thank you for that, Ryan. In regards to what you're describing in that scenario is a team meeting, and not only that, a highly effective team meeting. And it's interesting. I remember working with a senior VP of sales one time, and he's talking about, the lack of effectiveness in their team meetings, because most of them were done virtual, salespeople spread everywhere. And he made a comment about, I've had speakers on it, but boy, it's just, I could tell nobody's engaged, nobody, and so I had him walk through the meeting, and basically it was the SVP divulging information, telling everybody what's going to happen, telling them what's going to come next, about new policies, new procedures, and then, oh, by the way, here's maybe a presenter or something else. And all the salespeople and regional managers' job was to sit back and just shut up and listen. And he couldn't understand why they were not engaged in what he was teaching, because they had no role. And that was part of it. And you talked about it earlier, Jamie. It's like you were reading from our book in some cases. but running the meeting, it should rotate. People sharing, people having accountabilities and responsibilities for roles in the next meeting need to be passed on. And so that is one of the ways you turn an ineffective meeting into an effective meeting. All of a sudden now you have collaboration. You're using the collective power, the collective wisdom of an entire group and not just a single individual. You're creating psychological safety and so on and so forth. There's just so many positives out of what you just described.
And talking more specifically about salespeople, most salespeople, at least the salespeople that I've come across, are kind of type A. They kind of enjoy talking and sharing and gifting information and knowledge. I mean, that's kind of how they're bred, right? Is in that. And if you try to mute that, oh Lord, you're going against everything that is positive about their personality. It's just a thought.
Well, no, you're spot on. I would agree with that. I think it's a general statement, but it's one that I agree with, that there are a lot of type A's in sales. And to your point, to mute that, why would you ever want to mute that? Why would you want to mute the feet on the street that are so client facing? Oh, hey, we don't want to hear from you. That would be one of the most ridiculous responses I would ever hear. But you're right. Too often, and I don't think it's thought of that they're being muted. They're just not considering the fact that they are. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, 110%. It's one of those things that's really hard to. You said from the very beginning of this is a leadership role, and I think part of being a good leader is being a good listener and a good follower. My word of the year for 2018 was focused. And the acronym is finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions. Think about what I'm going to do, right?
Wow.
And then in 2019, it was listen intentfully and soulfully to engage notably. First of all, listen and then engage. And that's where I learned the real difference between respond and react. And a huge difference there. And I think these are really relevant terms, and I'd be happy to share my word of the year for 2020, but because of the virus and everything, it got pushed back. So we're going to be launching that the middle of the month, but I'll give you a hint, it's implement. So I do have an acronym assigned to implement though.
Wow, that's a big one. I look forward to hearing that. But when you think of when you talk about responding versus reacting, one of my favorite quotes, and I won't be able to quote it all. I know it sounds odd because it's one of my favorite, but it is from Viktor Frankl, and also brought to mind more recently with a friend of mine, Dr. Larry Woodman, who's a sports psychiatrist, but talking about that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And how we elect to use that space really determines outcomes. And that's one of the things that we have to continually remember. And that is a tremendous thing. Don't react, I'll respond, but it may not be immediately.
There's something to be said for taking a breath. Yeah, there really is something to be said for taking a breath. Like just that long will make you go, okay, what just happened?
Well, it's used in the world of sport all the time. So yes, you're dead right. Just even a pause and a deep breath calms the brain and makes, and nobody thinks less of you for taking those 2 seconds.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, we're getting close to the end of the half hour here. I have a million more questions that I can ask you. And I'm sorry, I did kind of dart off from where you first started, but I was so excited to talk with you about actual meetings and things like that. And I do think it's different there's so many things that I want to ask you right now, Bill, but I want to respect your time. But I'm wondering, what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you? To reach out and to learn more.
Well, thank you. That's always a very welcomed and kind and classy question. The best way is you can go to BillEckstrom.com, and last name is ECKSTROM. So I have my website that was created by some professionals with whom I work, And the company's website is EcSell Institute, ECSELL Institute.com. Both of those are perfect ways. There's EcSellInstitute.com obviously has tons of downloads and we just recently put out a white paper about the chaos that the pandemic is creating. And there's all kinds of opportunity and learning opportunities within those sites. So those are both ways. LinkedIn, of course, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Love to connect with people. So join me on LinkedIn. Do some Twitter, not as much as I should, according to our PR people.
Yeah, it's they're always wanting more, right? Always more,
Right.
more. You need to get out there, get out. Well, that's fantastic. If there was something you would like, there's two things. For someone on their journey right now, at what time in their career or in their journey or managing their process, what time do they need to come and visit you? Where are they in their career?
Oh, anywhere, because here's one of and that's a powerful question. If I ever say at a specific point in a career, that means we're not taking care of people. And here's why. We're never a finished product. And the second we start to behave like one, we need to get out of doing what we're doing. And our work, my work, everything we do revolves around anybody at any point in their leadership or coaching journey. I don't care whether we just got off the phone this morning with chairman of the board of a publicly traded company, or I'm a frontline, just got promoted into a management role. Anywhere in that spectrum, you better look for ways to continually grow. And you better find a way to remain uncomfortable. Because if you don't, the order in your life will limit your growth. So anywhere in that journey, you better behave like you're not a finished product and look for ways to grow.
Okay, second question. Who is your perfect avatar? Who's the person that reaches out to Bill and EcSell Institute?
Oh, wow. Well, say a chief sales officer type, an EVP of sales. We work with all departments, but sales is more fun just only in the sense that we can get more data. In other words, in sales, we can correlate behaviors to results from a leadership coaching perspective. And to give you a quick example, we know the top 20% of leaders in sales, coaches in sales, their teams produce $4.3 million more revenue than the bottom 80% because they do 30% more coaching with 19% better quality. So I'd love to be able to correlate numbers. I love a data-driven approach to coaching.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And then the third question is, before we wrap, what would you like to leave us with?
Oh, comfort will ruin your life.
Oh, I like that. I haven't heard that. Okay, so I am not comfortable. I am not comfortable.
Right. The follow on to that would be growth only occurs in a state of discomfort.
See, I love that. Fantastic. Well, Bill, thank you again so much. And my good friend that I play hockey with and golf with on occasion, Chris Clements, sent me a message this morning saying, "Hey, I saw you're going to have Bill Eckstrom on." And he apparently had worked with you in the past. So I thought that was pretty neat. So where are you in the world?
Where I'm right in the heartland of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, right in the
Springfield,
middle.
Missouri. Okay.
That's where you're from?
Yeah. Well, I live here now. I've been here for the past 8 years. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, we had family down there.
Oh, fantastic.
Midwest thing. Everybody knows somebody. Never more than a couple,
Isn't that wild? Well, that's fantastic. Well, Bill, if you'll hold on one quick second, don't run anywhere. I'm just going to close out today and wrap it up. If we get any more comments or questions, I'll make sure to get those to Bill. Bill, thank you very much for taking the time to jump on board.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much, Jamie. It was an honor to be with you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Hold on one quick second.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and wrap this up at a respective time. Someone did have, Ryan Shute said great stuff and thank you. So I'll bring you back in just to let you know. Ryan Shute said great stuff. Thank you. Ryan, you're the man.
Ryan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that.
All right. My name is Jamie J. I am the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. We are the world's first dedicated distant assistant company. If you want to know what that means, go to bottleneck.online/inquire and we'll tell you all about it. I want to thank Bill Eckstrom for joining us today as we talked about some hidden performance metrics that leaders don't know exist. And we really kind of dove into meetings. And I kind of went off on my tangent because that's where I'm at in my life. But I appreciate Bill for being so honorable and staying there with me. If you want to know more about Bill, I went ahead and put down all of his contact information here. This is a quick bio. You can freeze this at a later time. It is evergreen. But you can also reach Bill by going to EcSellInstitute.com, and that's ECSELL Institute.com. He's on LinkedIn. He's got a personal LinkedIn. He's on Instagram and he's on Twitter. He's got a personal Twitter. Pretty much everywhere you want to go, you can find Bill. Remember, EcSell Institute is the world's first and only organization to measure and quantify leadership effectiveness. He's also the co-author of The Coaching Effect. And you can learn more about Bill by going to BillEckstrom.com. Thank you so much for joining in today. And have a fantastic day. If there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you want me to introduce you to Bill, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that introduction is met. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting us help you stop the bottleneck in your business.